Labour will demand the Morrison government bring forward its mid-year budget update and use the cash flowing in from the nation's miners to fast-track personal income tax cuts and boost spending as part of an economic rescue plan. Ahead of next week's national accounts, which are expected to show the economy growing at its slowest annual rate since 2000, when Australia narrowly avoided a recession, Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers will on Saturday argue the budget forecasts are out of date and need to be revised to ward off a slowdown. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg brought forward this year's budget to the first week of April due to the election. Since then, the global and domestic economies have deteriorated, with the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, expected to cut official rates, already at a record low of 1%, further in coming months. On Friday, figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics showed a 7.3% drop in the value of building work approved across the country, the worst result in 3 years. Almost all of the budget forecasts, from unemployment to wages, are now much more optimistic than those of the RBA and state treasuries, which released their own budget updates through May and June. But while the domestic economy has weakened and there is growing concern the US-China trade war and Brexit will hurt global growth, iron ore prices have delivered a windfall to the budget bottom line, worth several $billion. Mr. Chalmers will use his address to the Tasmanian Alps State Conference on Saturday to say it is now obvious the mid-year budget update, due in December, needs to be brought forward. An earlier budget update would give the government a circuit-breaking opportunity to come up with the economic plan, which has been so conspicuously absent so far, he will say. By providing an early economic statement, the government could correct some of the core forecasts of the 2019 budget, which they have got so badly wrong. This includes their forecasts for wages growth, which they've stuffed up in every budget and budget update since they came to office. It will also allow them to update their forecasts for iron ore prices, profits, and their assumptions for the dollar, all of which should substantially strengthen the budget position and take away their excuses to do nothing to stimulate the economy. Prime Minister Scott Morrison earlier this week claimed the budget had been compiled, knowing full well the economy was facing international headwinds, saying the July tax cuts along with other policies would keep the economy strong. But in the past fortnight the RBA, which has called on governments to bring forward planned infrastructure spending, has downgraded its key forecasts. On wages growth alone, the RBA's forecasts are almost a full percentage point lower than those set out in the budget. Mr. Chalmers will argue the government could use the update to consider a string of policies to boost the economy, including bringing forward the planned 2022-23 personal income tax cuts. Those tax cuts, which include lifting the threshold for the 19% tax bracket to $45,000 and increasing the low-income tax offset to $700, will cost the budget more than $5 billion a year. He will also call on the government to review and increase the New Start unemployment allowance, saying it would provide a significant stimulus via the retail sector. State governments would also benefit from increased GST revenue, which partial budget figures suggest has fallen behind forecasts. Labour wants the government to consider the investment guarantee policy it took to the last election. This policy, widely supported by the business community, would give firms an immediate 20% tax deduction on eligible assets worth more than $20,000. It would cost the budget $1.8 billion in its first year of operation. Mr. Chalmers will also call for the government to bring forward infrastructure spending, including a proposed upgrade of the base highway in Tasmania, while developing a comprehensive plan to boost wages. According to Mr. Chalmers, failure to get ahead of a global downturn could leave the Australian economy dangerously exposed. The Morrison government is in denial. The soft economy has been their blind spot. It's becoming their weak spot, he will say.